Welcome to the Hard 180, where we are counting down the 100 most essential albums of the 1980s hair metal scene. My special guest today, he's been on the show before, and he comes to us from the In Obscuria Podcast. Let me pull him up here. Kevin Williams, how you doing tonight, man?
Baco, what is up, my friend?
Well, you know as well as anybody that I love this scene, and you're one of the guys that I know that loves it almost as much as I do. But today we're talking about the Riot album. Yes. Narita. Yeah. Coming in at number 7, apparently. Wow, what a shocker.
Oh, you got the right.
Hey, buddy, how you been? Oh, wait, hold on. I'm a little dry. I gotta get a drink here. Hold on.
Oh, look at that fancy mug you got there, buddy.
Oh, yeah. I should check this out. Look at that bad boy. Oh, yeah. Courtesy of you, my friend. Yes. So thank you very much for this gift. I got to tell you, when I unpacked it, my wife was with, and she like grabs it out of my hand and she starts scouring, and I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" She wanted to make sure Firehouse was on here, so well done.
Yes, they're on there.
Yeah,
the band we're talking about is not, and we'll get into that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, before we get into today's record, Kevin, I believe you have been following along. You know what? Before I get into that, let me ask you one question I've always wondered. Like, since you recorded, let me just, when you're out and about, you're at Starbucks, wherever, how often when people hear your voice do they go, "Hey, were you Tommy Lee in the Blizzard of Oz from Cobras and Fire?"
Only if I go, dude. Which I do often. So yes, they do all the time. I sign so many autographs as Tommy Lee.
Oh God. Yeah.
And then they asked me to pull it out, and they're like, "Oh wait, you're not Tommy Lee."
Wow, we went there. All right. Well, I believe you've been following along with the Hard 180 the whole time. Am I okay in saying that?
I have. I listen to your program religiously, sir.
Oh, fair enough. I appreciate that. As for anybody else, but it's your opportunity. Well, you were a contributor to the list. Do you have any grievances that you need to air regarding the list so far?
Well, let's just see. Yeah, so Riot, I do believe, should have been a little higher than they were, and I don't believe
oh, God.
have given
Seriously.
them the
I didn't know you were one of those guys.
Blogging that you did. So that's one for sure.
No.
I look back at my kind of top 50.
I was kind to them. I was very kind.
Oh, we just, if your listeners want more Riot, you can come over to the In Obscuria podcast, and you can get a whole episode all about Riot.
And I don't know if that episode dropped yet, because remember though there was I don't know where we're at in the timeline. I've been recording these like months ahead of time, including this one. And I shouted out who has some questions, and you shot back more talk about Riot. So we talked about Riot a little bit. So I pumped your show, but what I said was, and once again I got sucked in. But to your credit, I was like, well, if anybody's going to convince me that I can like this band, it's motherfucking Kevin Williams. And it was super entertaining. I learned a lot of stuff, and I absolutely liked them equally as I did before.
All right, touche. No, so a couple that I had in my top 10 that I'm fairly certain will not make the top 10. I had the Keel self-titled album at number 8, Baco, because it meant that much to me.
Right on.
So I was not happy with the placement of that one. The other one that, for me, is a top 10 album is Queensryche Operation Mindcrime. I mean, that was a game changer for me back in the day. And it was a game changer for a lot of people in opening them up to kind of that progressive metal thing, even though it was also kind of hair metal. So, and the only other one I'll throw out there that I think is impressive.
Operation Mindcrime came in at number 11, though. That's pretty solid.
It's a top 10 album, Baco. Top 10 album.
Okay, carry on.
Also, Kingdom Come self-titled album. I'm sorry, but that needs to be way up in that list.
Are you the guy? Wait, no, wasn't that Gene that put that at like number 5? Hold on. Where's Kevin? Where did you have Kingdom Come?
I had it at 13. Look at lucky number 13. Look at this vest here, man. Look at this battle vest.
You like it so much, you didn't have it in the top 10. So
I didn't say it was a top 10. I said it definitely is a top 15.
Yeah, well, someone liked it more than you, and it still came in where it did. So
Those are the only grievances. I'll be honest with you. I think it's been pretty good and pretty much where I thought it would land for a lot of them. I
Hmm?
thought for sure Bon Jovi would be up higher, but I think you guys made a good point that they were so, the girls loved them and the guys were like, I just can't
Yeah.
get with it. And I think that makes sense of where it was placed. So I was
And
glad to hear that.
I did break it down on the Skid Row episode I did with LC, but I finally figured out the top four for hair metal. After actually doing some research, it all became crystal clear. It is Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, Poison, and to your point, Bon Jovi and Poison don't have records in the top 10
Right.
because of, I think, the point I made where it was like, it really was, they were kind of chick bands, but you cannot deny. I think they're, when you look at it now historically, if you're gonna fucking carve your Mount Rushmore, you're not putting Rat up there over Poison. You're not doing Dokken over Poison. As much as we might have debated it at the time, I don't think it's that debatable now.
And I don't know how. I know that there's been a lot of discussion on how you did these ratings as far as your personal ones that you were sending in or the people that were sending them in. But to me, it was a balance of my love of the band and the album, countered with how was it perceived by the populace at the time, and then the third thing that I put into it was how has it lasted? Does it continue to be entertaining and does it still resonate with people? Could it pull in new fans today? So I looked at it through those three variables when I was trying to rate things.
And I tried to, when I sent it out, I did try to direct people a little bit, like don't use only your personal opinion. Like, I like this record better than that one. Factor in exactly what you're saying, but at the same time, the personal aspect, I think, weighed in heavily. And as we go through this, we see how it all kind of shakes out. And much like the grunge list I did, we're kind of seeing that it did a pretty good job. When you get a wide enough swath of people,
Yep.
things kind of land where they should. I don't think it's a very clickbaity list. As much as people want to shit on me for Enough's Enough or fucking Riot, they really are bands that historically belong where they ended up. The fact that they made the list should be kind of an honor, I think.
I agree. They're a top 20 band.
But everybody had their own. Everybody still used their own perception. You know, my boy Wilson, who I've talked about on the show, he definitely went all super fan on this list. And frankly, as I've gone through this, I'm starting to think my friend Gene Vogel was the same way. I mean, some of his like Kingdom Come, like in the top 5, is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
So he got it right. Good.
I love that record. It's beginning to end. It's a fucking great album.
Yep.
But yeah, there's definitely more than 4 records more essential to this scene than fucking a Led Zeppelin ripoff. But
okay.
all right, all right. Well, what are some obscure albums? You're in Obscuria. Anybody who hasn't checked out the In Obscuria podcast, you should. And there literally is nobody that I would defer more as far as music knowledge of fucking any genre, man. Hats off to you, because I used to think like Big Brain and Baco, I can go deep. I like a lot of stuff. And then I met you and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much this one-trick pony. And Kevin Williams is this deep dive guy. What do you got for this scene? You have to have some obscure records that at least deserve some, like, maybe not being on the list, but they deserve some attention. Aaron Camaro and I did a list of our own. Did we miss any? I have to believe we did.
Yeah, I think you got some that I would put on the list as well. I will say there were some glaring omissions of not really obscure bands, but a few that I'll just mention off the bat that aren't as obscure, but they were definitely omissions to me. So Blue Murder, I think that was brought up. The fact that Stryper, To Hell with the Devil, was not on this was kind of crazy to me.
It's on the list.
Is it on the list? Did I miss that?
Yeah, that was at number...
All right, well, I'm a dumbass.
54. It came in at 54. Anyway,
yeah, like I said,
after we're recording, I'll touch on that a little bit more. I think I know what happened.
Okay. Tora was one that was mentioned. Dangerous Toys. MSG, I thought they should have been on there. Shotgun Messiah, Saigon.
You're talking Macaulay Schenker Group, right?
Yes, Macaulay Schenker Group.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think all of those Macaulay Schenker albums were really good. Saigon Kick. Yngwie Malmsteen didn't make it.
Now, when did Saigon Kick have the "Love Is on the Way" song?
That was the Lizard, so that was that 90?
I think it was '92 for some
Was
reason.
it that late? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe the first album was 90. You're right. Let's see. So
That would exclude them from inclusion. Is all I'm getting at.
got it. Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. If I'm talking about obscure bands, a lot of the ones that we have played on our show, because we have a series called Beneath the Hair where we do forgotten glam metal, and a lot of
It
them
might be my favorite episodes you guys do.
well, I appreciate that. A lot of them are forgotten because they came out in the 90s. So that might
Okay.
exclude them from this list. But there were a lot of, you know, how many bands came out around 89 to 92. There was just so many bands coming out, and none of them really had a chance. But I would throw bands like Baby Animals from Australia.
No, they're not even hair metal at all.
Oh, they certainly are. Oh, yeah.
That's
That first
ridiculous.
album. Oh,
That's
Rough View?
ridiculous.
That's so. How about South Gang?
Sure, but that was later. That was definitely later.
Later,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
There was a band from released a album in 1988 called Chrome Molly, who I always loved.
Sure, that would definitely fall into the category, but also a little too late.
Yeah. Trouble Tribe, they had an album in 1990.
Now we're recording this before the Skid Row episode. That's where I dropped the ball, or the ball. That's where I dropped the bomb, whatever. I extended this list specifically to 91 for one record, and that was Slave to the Grind. I thought that had to be, and by the way, it came in at number 9, so I think I'm validated.
Right.
Keep going.
I think there's a band that you like that I've played before called Beggars and Thieves. I always
Oh yeah, yeah.
love that album. Rough Cut. I always thought Rough Cut was a killer band.
Ah, God.
No?
No, they're like a step. They're like a better version of London than London.
Oh, I'll scratch London off my list then. Let's see. There's a band called Sweet FA who I always liked that band.
Yeah, okay.
Some pretty killer records. Let's see. Tiger Tails, I think I mentioned them. I always like Tiger Tails.
Great name.
I mean, as glam gets. They got a Z in
That
there.
sounds Disney Channel, if you ask me. I don't think it sounds very hair metal at all.
Well, they look like Poison, but they're guys from Wales. So you hear them speak, and it's like, whoa, that doesn't quite match.
There are a lot of stuff like it. You ever heard of Vamp? I don't think I mentioned them.
Yeah.
Yeah, their drummer was in Jack Russell's band somewhat recently, but they're all fucking Swedes. You know, it's like,
Yeah. Well, you know, let's see. A couple others. Salty Dog, Sea Hags.
Oh my god, my college roommate played the living shit out of that fucking Salty Dog album. Oh my god, I did not like it.
Not
And then
your thing, huh?
I became friends with who's the bass player? He went on to do another band. Michael Hannon. I believe he's the bass player for Salty Dog. But anyway. Oh, god damn it! I have their CD here too. Oh, whatever. Just carry on. I'm getting sidetracked.
I'll mention one more. There's a band called Outlaw Blood who put out one album in 1991. Amazing album.
Now let me ask you this: have you ever heard of a band called Snake Rock?
I have not.
Yes.
Not me.
Suck it. All right, for people who want to hear it, I'm going to drop a little bit of snake blood or into the audio version of this. YouTube is going to take some money from me if I do it here, but go check us out on anywhere you find a podcast if you want to hear some great fucking song called Can't Stay Home Tonight. I absolutely love it. I have played it on the show before, but it's difficult to stump you, my friend. So.
There's definitely some times where you guys have music on your program, and I'm going, wait a minute, do I know this? And there's been a few that I've actually picked up from you guys. So
Right on.
You get me more often than you think.
Fair enough. But all right. Well, were there any records on? Well, you already told me. I think you spoiled this for me. You told me you kept the list, so you weren't one of the people that were like, "Where did I wonder where I rank this?" Because you kept your list handy. You were you scoring at home at the time?
I was.
All right, man. Well, before we get into today's record, anything else you want to talk about as far as the series or the scene?
Just I loved the grunge series that you did. I followed that religiously. I got to be on one of those, and that was so much fun. And this is just following in its footsteps. I love what you've done. I do think you should have titled it what I titled my original submission to you, which was Baco's Hair 100. But, that's okay. You named it.
Yeah, fair enough. I just didn't want to make it about me, man. That's all. So, all right. Well, coming in at number 7 is the 5th album from Iron Maiden, 1984's Powerslave. I wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think there's some background here leading up to this with Iron Maiden that is kind of fun. They had a lot of turnover in the band for a band only on their 5th record, only on their 4th record actually, because it was before all this happened. So they record their debut record, the self-titled, and then they're going in to do the follow-up Killers, and they replace guitarist Dennis Stratton with Adrian Smith. And then after Killers, of course, we all know Paul Di'Anno, singer, is out. And Bruce Dickinson comes in. And the band really kind of has a pretty different sound. And then the next album, Number of the Beast, drummer Clive Burr, it's his turn. Boom, you're out. Nico McBrain. So you have basically you're down to 2 guys from the original record after 3 albums. And you don't see a lot of that. And that's a lot of turnover for this band, but it really cemented the lineup basically for the remainder of the 80s. I think it's all, at least through Fear of the Dark. You're the Maiden guy. Yep. Is that where Dickinson steps out?
Yeah, Adrian Smith. And so Adrian Smith left first, and then Dickinson did the 2 albums, and then he left. So Adrian Smith left before No Prayer for the Dying.
Oh, was Dickinson on No Prayer for the Dying? Yes, correct. Okay, all right.
Yeah, Dickinson's on No Prayer for the Dying. He's on Fear of the Dark. Adrian Smith left, so you had
Yannick Gers.
Yannick, yeah, if I can say his name right.
Well, that's a sort of unique with the band that's really on the rise, and actually every record is kind of pushing them to a next level. So, with Powerslave, this is their 5th record, and it's the first time out of those 5 that they have the same lineup in the band back to back.
So, can I tell you a little bit about my history with Maiden? Would that help this discussion today?
We can only find out one way, and that's by letting you do it, man.
All right. So for me, and I'm so glad that you chose me for this one, because when I first got into music in general, I was a little skate punk, right? So I was listening to punk rock because that's what you did when you were
real punk rock, right? Not the you don't consider Green Day punk, right?
No. This is pre-Green Day. This was hardcore punk, TSOL. This was Black Flag, all that kind of stuff. Husker Du. But then my buddy Brandon Still, who happens to be the keyboard player in Blackberry Smoke, which is crazy.
Yes,
he introduces me to Metallica, and Metallica was my gateway away from hardcore into metal. But then,
so what album would this have been? Like what year about?
So this was '86. So Master of Puppets had just come out. And so Master of Puppets was my very first purchase of a cassette tape, and that set me on the path out of punk into metal. I still love punk, but I started getting into metal. But it was Iron Maiden that was my first obsession. I never obsessed over a band until Iron Maiden. It was the fact that they influenced Metallica and all the other thrash bands that I was starting to listen to, but also the visuals of Derek Riggs. It was Eddie that pulled me in. I'm in middle school, so of course I'm in horror movies and things of the 80s, right? And I see Eddie, and I'm like, oh, this is my thing. This has got to be my thing. I haven't even heard this yet, and I know this is going to be my thing. And it was. And I remember riding my 10-speed bike on a state highway to the Walmart to get my first Iron Maiden tape. I almost got killed getting my first Iron Maiden tape. And I bought the latest album, and then I just...
Thank God they don't swear in the records.
I bought the latest album that was out at that time, which was Somewhere in Time, and I just picked between all the other ones that were there, and I just picked another one. I got 2 tapes. I got Somewhere in Time and Number of the Beast. I got them the same time in 1987 at a local Walmart, and that set me on the path to becoming just a Maiden fanatic. And this battle vest that I'm wearing, originally, when I had it in 1987, the same jacket, this was an all Maiden vest. So they had a back patch on it instead of the things I have on it now, and it was a Live After Death big back patch, and everything here was all Eddie, all Maiden. And I wore that thing every day in 1987 to my junior high school. I even wore it to my junior high school dance, Baco.
All right. Goddamn. This asshole is making things really complicated for me right now. Chuck. All right.
Uh,
Now I know that you have more than one battle vest. Let the listeners know how many of these things you currently rock.
I only have two. I only have this is the original, and this
Okay,
is the
that's your
most
high school
heard.
one.
This is the junior high and high school one, and then I have a more recent one, which is an all black vest, which has white patches on it. But I'll let you know, I wore this to my junior high, ninth grade, high school, or I guess it's junior high school dance.
Nice.
And do you know what it landed me?
I probably not squish.
No squish. No squish at all in this jacket has ever been had.
Yeah. we probably have some symbiotic experiences when it comes to that kind of wardrobe and how well it helped with getting the ladies at that time. But
Yeah. Did not have the effect that I had hoped.
it never did. But I got into Maiden a little earlier than you. For the record, Powerslave is the first new release from Maiden for me. As a fan, I mean, like I already bought a couple of their cassettes. And yeah, basically I was just building my cassette collection with my paper up money. My dad worked in a town, well, whatever, it might as well have been the same town, doesn't matter. On weekends he would bring me along, and if I did some busy work just to hang out with him, he would give me $10 to go, and then I could go to a music store and pick out. And I bought Number of the Beast one of the days, basically because I'd heard of the name Iron Maiden and the cover. So, and that's when I became a fan, and then I started working my way back. And the weird thing is that, when I look back, this has happened a ton going through all this, Kevin. It seemed like so long. You know what I mean? Even like I wrote an article for Decibel Geek about how I became a Kiss fan, and the equivalent of 18 months, what seemed like 7 years at the time, all this shit happened. So yeah, I'm like, God, once I get another $10, I'm gonna get another Maiden or Judas Priest or whatever on this list. But yeah, I became a pretty big fan. I really enjoy the first two records, even though they're I like the first one a lot better than Killers. But honestly, through Powerslave, I got no issues with anything Iron Maiden has done. But yeah, so that was kind of at some point in there. It was before Powerslave that I had at least the debut record, Number of the Beast, and Peace of Mind. But I do remember Number of the Beast was the first one I bought, and probably kind of tied to my, I don't know, you talked about horror movies and stuff. I've always had this kinship with darker arts and stuff, even though I worried for my soul at the time. I was like, should I be listening to this? I might go to hell. But I kept doing it, even though I no longer worry about nonsense like that. But
well, just as long as you accept that's where you're going, it's fine.
yeah, okay. Well, I'll see you there, buddy.
So here's something interesting about Powerslave with me is I actually didn't own this album until I went to college in the 90s. And the reason is...
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're a lot younger than me. I'm sorry. I'm so used to you're a lot older than me. That's my bit. But anyway, carry on.
No, so I'm
just enjoying this coffee.
I went to high school, or I'm sorry, I went to college in 91. And I probably didn't own this album until 92 because I had most of the other cassettes, but I bought the Live After Death tape, and that has so many of these songs on it. And I used to rent, I mean, it seemed like every weekend I was renting from our local record store where I lived called Square Records. I would rent the video.
Yeah, same.
Live After Death, and I would just watch that over and over and over. So these songs are just ingrained in me, but I didn't really own the album until later. But I had such an appreciation of the songs already.
And I actually have something on that we'll get to. Let's we'll talk a little bit about Live After Death because I think that definitely ties into the importance of this album.
The other thing I wanted to mention is I said earlier when you held up the mug is Iron Maiden's not on that mug.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the reason is I really questioned, when you sent me the list, I really questioned your inclusion of Maiden and Priest into this whole list. And I started...
What about Dio?
Dio, I always could see the crossover, especially with Sacred Heart. Um, it was easier for me to see with Dio.
Really? All right.
But Maiden and Priest, to me, they've always been like true heavy metal or power metal or new wave of British heavy metal. But then I was thinking about it as I was reading through the list. I'm like, I could see Turbo for Priest for sure. People had always said that was their version of a hair metal album. But Maiden, that doesn't work for me. But then I started thinking about my history, and it was my obsession with Maiden that made me pick up my first Hit Parader and my first Circus magazine because they featured Maiden. And as I'm reading those Hit Paraders and Circus every month after that, after I got my first one, then I started being exposed to all of these other hair bands. So they really were my gateway into all of these other hair bands. So I can see the inclusion of them here.
You know what? I really appreciate you actually breaking it out like that, because that is one way that because there's a bunch, we've talked about it a lot going through all this stuff up to this point, why they were included, and actually people, kind of kicked back on other things, but because they're not the only band that, like, Def Leppard's not hair metal, Bon Jovi's not hair metal, that's pop metal. That's like, the reality is, like, I haven't heard that argument, and that makes a lot of sense too. I think it just kind of adds to the pile. My first comeback when you started down this path was that, like, when I had told you we were doing video, you said you're not wearing spandex. You know who wore a ton of spandex? 80s hair metal bands and Maiden. Yeah. So, but no, look, I get that people always think of, they want to pigeonhole the hair metal to mean, basically Theater of Pain, Motley Crue, something like that. The reality is, it encompasses quite a broad base of bands, and while some might not like it, some might. I haven't actually heard a band say, I love the term hair metal, and some hate it. But the reality is, when you say hair metal, you pretty much know what you're talking about. And yeah, Maiden is a little bit different, and frankly, I think this album is where they got proggy for the first time.
Yep.
But we'll get into more of that. So, Powerslave. Well, before I get any more, Kevin?
No, that's it. Let's get into it.
Okay, I just I try to defer to the guests as much as I can. So, Powerslave, the fifth record, and the first time a record featured in the same lineup, like I mentioned. This peaked at 21 in the States, probably higher, because this was pre-SoundScan, where you had that kind of like, well, I don't want to say that we sold more of these than the latest Whitney Houston or whatever was out in '84, or Cyndi Lauper will say. This was the first new release for me as Iron Maiden, as I mentioned, and I actually had some klepto friends. These were not good people. These were not a good influence on me, but I had already burned out my shoplifting phase by this point. But these two hadn't. I met them basically after my parents' divorce, and they lived in the same apartment complex that my mom moved into. And they were willing to, I had paper out money. They were willing to steal me some cassettes for a certain amount of money. I think I got Eddie Murphy, his first comedy record, for 25 cents, but Maiden cost me 50. Yeah, Delirious. Yeah, okay. I think so. And Maiden Powerslave cost me 50 cents. So I got my first brand new copy of this. Pretty good deal. Anyway, it's a very visual record when you talk about from the cover to the lyrics, and you were talking about the tour. The tour, like, I did the exact same thing you did. I rented that videotape a bunch of times and just watched it over and over and over. And it was just amazing with the kind of like Egyptian themes and all this stuff they were doing. But not just that, the set list was fucking killer. I gotta tell you, I think the cassette is that's the definitive release of this.
I agree.
The CD and the vinyl, no. Now, did they ever actually do a proper CD release that included all like 5 bonus tunes that were on the cassette?
I think when they did the, remember in the 90s they got re-released on, it was like CMC or one of those.
Okay.
Labels, maybe it's Sanctuary, one of those labels that they got kind of re-released on for the disc. They did a 2-disc version.
And it has those tunes?
They had those songs. Because I remember, you couldn't get Phantom of the Opera, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's one of the best tunes. But
God,
yeah, I think you're right. The tape, and I remember looking in the record store. I was with my cousin in North Carolina. I don't know why I remember this. I was in like a record bar, one of those mall stores, and I had Powerslave in one hand and Live After Death in the other. Live After Death cost more because it was considered a double album.
Yeah.
And so the tape cost more, and I was like, I'm going to go with this. It just seems like it's got more songs on it. I'm going to go with this. And it's probably my favorite live album next to Kiss Alive 2. It's probably my favorite live album of all time.
And let's just pull this up here since I got it there. So this is kind of a shot of what the stage looked like. And there was also a part earlier before all that background, almost pre, Hot in the Shade, where the Sphinx disappeared, also Egyptian, where Eddie would walk around. It was just amazing. And while I'm looking at this, hold on, Kevin. From the In Obscuria Podcast. Love that. I meant to pop that up a little bit earlier. And here is the cover of the album we're talking about, Powerslave. So, yeah, I'm a one-man show here, and I'm not very good at this. So,
how long did you stare? Did you have the tape of this, or did you have the?
I had the cassette. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you couldn't really stare at the cassette, but if you look behind me.
I did though. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me pull this down.
Pull that down.
Let me
let's see if I can point. See this poster right here?
Let's see if I can do this.
You can barely make it out.
Why am I big? I'm trying to make you big. Hold on.
Make me big.
Bigger. Come on, what the hell?
It doesn't like big me.
Oh, this is stupid.
Oh well.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
It's all right. Oh,
that's somewhat bigger. All right.
That's somewhat bigger. Okay. This poster is my first ever rock poster. And it's like an 11 by 17. It's not like a big size, but
okay.
It's still in the reason it's shiny is it's still in the wrap from when I bought it. And this is the World Slavery Tour poster. It's got all the countries that they visited. You can't read it obviously, but I used to, because I didn't have the cassette, but I used to stare at that for hours, because if you just look at this on vinyl, you can stare at this for hours and find so many cool little things in it that Derek Riggs. I mean, just an amazing artist. And another thing to add to the appeal of Iron Maiden. And then you'll see that I have two Eddies back here.
Yeah.
I've got both of these are from Powerslave, right? You got Eddie the Mummy here, and then you've got the Pharaoh.
God.
A+ album. You got me on the right show, man.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no. We've talked before, and those are always in the background there. I'm trying to think. You were going back to something. I lost my train of thought because I was listening.
I was
to
talking about the poster.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, whatever. The imagery of the album is great, and as much as you say I can't, I stared at that fucking cassette. Now the cassette was long; it wasn't square like the earlier ones. So
I never had it on cassette, so I didn't remember if it was like a small picture. You know how they used to do the small picture, and then you
like
the rest of it. No,
this one it covered the whole front as I recall, but anyway.
This one somewhere in time. So the trilogy of albums that I consider their first proggy albums. This one, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son. They all have album covers that you can literally stare at for hours.
Oh, especially Somewhere in Time.
Yeah. Yeah, have you ever read all the little store names and everything? They got so many different things in there.
So many references to their... On this record, too, a lot of references to... Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but I think Number of the Beast, there's a ton of fucking shit going on in the album, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think Derek Riggs really got into, like, detail on these three.
And you know what? Eddie, as a mascot, I think... That's the only one that deserves a name because it was kind of organic. It was a head they had for the album cover of the first one, and they just called it Ed because they're fucking English and they can't fucking hit the H. And then it turned into Eddie, and to me that's fun. But Dio, like that's Murray, or all these. I don't know, man.
Yeah, between Eddie and Johnny the Mighty Tior, you're right. Only those two really work.
Is that the Pomeranian seal mammal? Riots.
World's worst mascot ever invented.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, Lord. All right. Yeah, and by the way, people, as much as I talk shit about Riot, you will be entertained going back and listening to the In Obscuria 2-part series on fucking Riot. And, God, I hope you don't walk away going, these band, they're pretty good.
Should have been huge, right?
Should have been exactly what they were. They should be thankful they still have a career.
Put a new album out, man.
I know. That's what I'm getting at. It's like, come on. How are they underrated? Their music sucks, and they're still doing it. And they got people yelling at me every time I say they suck. They must be doing okay.
I completely agree. They're amazing. All right, let's go on.
All right. Well, this album, guitar-wise, was kind of fun. It features a perfect 14 guitar solos, 7 for each player. The weird thing about that is that, like, I think they're two incredibly similar guitar players. It is really difficult listening to go like, "Oh, that's Adrian," or "That's." And actually, when I was thinking about that, like, I didn't put Judas Priest to that test. I don't know that there's a 2-guitar band that, like, even Slayer. I think over the years I've kind of gotten to where I can tell Carrie from Jeff a little bit, but for the most part, it just seems like when you have 2 guys, it just,
Yeah,
I don't know.
to me, you can pick out Dave a little bit because he always plays a Strat. So you kind of, if you know that Strat sound, you can pick
I
it
guess.
out.
But he
Adrian
does have
Smith-
humbuckers on him usually, doesn't he?
He does, but Adrian Smith would vary. So he had a lot of different guitars that he would play, and so sometimes you can get the difference. But I agree with you. Sometimes it's really hard. You have to watch that Live After Death video to really get it.
And I'm sorry, I dropped my notes. I did find it interesting that I think it was Adrian that said that basically both of them, as far as recording this record, this is their gear. This is the nerd guitar talk part of the show. They used a 100-watt Marshall, so because of the time, I'm guessing it was a JCM 800, and an Ibanez tube screamer. That was basically. Oh God, I envy you. Yeah, I should have bought one of them when you could actually buy one without, like, basically giving up a kidney. But it is the best sounding guitar amp I've ever heard.
So great.
Yeah.
I bought it just to record. Just side story. I bought it just to record back in the day in one of my bands. And my plan was I'm just going to buy it and then return it to Guitar Center after the recording. And I just couldn't let it go because I just got so hooked on the tone. I'm like, I'm just going to have to lose money and just, not eat for a month.
Yeah, by the time I got to the point where I was actually paying attention to guitar head models and stuff, we're talking early 90s, there was so many fucking Marshalls. They had so many different models, and a lot of them were cheap, and a lot of them were shitty. So I didn't know which ones were good, But then, like, I don't know, in the midst of the early days of Chrysler, one of the neighboring bands had a guy who played through a JCM 800, and I plugged into the thing, and I was like, okay, fuck everything. I've literally never had that experience other than that one time. I'm like, this is the sound of Marshall this is what I think of when people brag about Marshall. But
Yep.
they did use an Ibanez tube screamer pedal on the thing, but they said basically that was it. There was not a lot of, like, onboard effects or anything like that. So that's kind of cool.
Which would drastically change with the next album.
Yeah. Fortunately, not on the list, although one of the greatest songs of their band. So, yeah, we should mention this album was released on September 3rd, 1984. It was produced, once again, by Martin Birch, who, God, he's like the Tom Allen of Judas Priest.
Yep.
He's just perfect for this band. And
you know how to dial in their sound.
And you talked about, like, your criteria. This, like a lot of the records, now that we're in the top 10 especially, it has a really good timeless sound to it. It's not dated. It sounds like Maiden. It actually sounds better than probably their latest release, as far as sonically.
I completely agree.
All right. Well, unless you got more, we're going to get into the track by track. You tell me, Kevin.
No, let's get into it. I guess we've kind of already said it. I guess the one thing, overall, is, to me, this is the first trilogy in their kind of proggy episode of this album, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son. They were all kind of proggy, longer songs than they had been doing prior to this. And it was also, to me, it was them getting away from that beginning of new wave of British heavy metal into more power metal and also closer to hair metal, which is...
See, for me, it's more of a transition than part of that 3. This is the end of the perfect thing. It's like Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and this record. That's my trilogy.
Okay. I just think the longer songs and the guitar leads that last for, more than half of the song, like, is going down that path of Steve Harris.
100%. This is their entry into that kind of proggy direction. But
yeah.
All right. Well, it opens up with Aces High. I'll just say this, Kevin, before I let you go. I'm not a fan of their opening tracks on almost any of their records, and
Wow.
the song is okay. By the way, not a fan. It doesn't mean they're bad songs. I'm like, it just ends. It's like, wow, I really am underwhelmed based on the rest of the record. This is really not that great for me. Aces High is probably better than the opening track for the previous two records, but not a whole lot for me. What do you got?
Wow, I'm completely opposite. I think this is a near perfect song. It starts Live After Death, so my connection immediately, even when I hear the studio version, is it takes me back to Live After Death, and just the way that album just like builds up the tension and release when they start the Winston Churchill speech, and then when they hit the stage, and it just explodes, and people go crazy. So that's always ingrained in my memory. And I even have the single. I love.
I love the prop. Right on.
Love this song. I think it's a perfect opening song. And I actually am opposite of you, because I find that I usually like the opening songs.
You like Invader?
Okay. You're right on that one. Yeah. Number of the Beast, probably not as much, but Peace of Mind. Oh my God. That opening
Well,
song.
what's the opening one on that one?
That's Where Eagles Dare. It's the first time you ever hear Nico, and he's killing it on that song.
You know what? Fair enough. You know what? I think in order, if I rank those three openers, this is 1, that's 2, and Invader is 3.
Yeah, you got me. You're right on Invader. I think it's a perfect song, man. I love it. But it really is because of Live After Death.
I tell you, if I'm in the crowd and they're opening this song, I'm having no problems.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's again, it's one of those things like we're kind of grading on a curve with all this stuff, and I get shit on for stuff, but also I did say Metal God sucks, and I do think that song sucks by Judas Priest. But Metal God. Anyway,
it's not the worst song on that album, by far. United.
I like United.
It's horrible.
I will say, yeah, you've engaged a little bit with the conversations on the group. I've really enjoyed the passion and the fun that people have had with their opinions and disagreeing with stuff. And I have, well, you've known me long enough to know that like I have zero problem with someone coming at me and going, you're an idiot."
Yeah.
And Enough's Enough is the best band since the Beatles. You know what I mean? And then I go, no, you're an idiot, but.
Enough's all right. They're no Beatles.
Yeah. Any more on Aces High before I pull my prop out?
No, go for it, man.
This is one of my favorite Maiden songs. That's all I got.
Oh, love it. Yeah, 2 minutes till midnight, man. So here's the interesting thing with this song, and I'll throw my prop up again. Another great single, another great album.
Now, for the people listening to the audio podcast, you want to go to our YouTube channel because Kevin is whipping out some fucking collectibles like you won't believe.
Yeah, love my Maiden. 2 minutes till midnight. When I was younger, I always thought the song was just okay. It didn't hit me until years ago, maybe 10 years ago, and it hit me. All of a sudden, I was like, how in the hell do I not love this song? It's a banger of a song, man. And what a 1-2 punch for an album. It's the same 1-2 punch that I got on Live After Death. Yeah, I don't know why originally it didn't hit me the way it does now, but yes, an amazing song.
I love this fucking tune. I'm trying to remember the timeline. I think I heard the song before the record actually came out, or before I owned it, I should say. Maybe not, but whatever. This was easily like the video might have been on the Nickelodeon video version of MTV. But
have you ever seen this cover?
We're backing up. There we go. No, I haven't. Now they have a long history of like singles with unreleased songs on them and stuff.
Yeah, this one has Rainbow's Gold. Forgettable, but it's there. Most of them are forgettable, unfortunately.
They're a lot like Kiss in that sense, It's like always putting out cool 45s with. No, I'm just kidding. Trying to take a cheap shot at Kiss for some reason. Oh
well.
Yeah, this song is perfect, and it's probably Oh, other than "Run to the Hills" is their radio hit, right? That has to be like their rock and roll all night. This is probably number two, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, you could even say "Running Free." I mean,
Yeah, god
it's
damn
got
it.
radio appeal. It was a single. It had
I
all.
think because that comes from the Paul Diano years that
Yeah.
like doesn't really the running free on fucking Live After Death with Dickinson. That's one of the missing tracks, man.
I
Wait,
know.
no. I'm sorry. That was actually the single off that, if I remember right.
I was gonna say
Hold
that
on.
was the one that was released as a single.
Yeah. No. Okay. I have the CD without all the bonus tracks. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was wrong, people. Not the first time.
Yeah, that was, and with Dickinson's voice on it, and it was released as a single. I mean, I think that's another one that you can throw in there. But I would say 2 Minutes to Midnight, worthy inclusion into hair metal in a way.
Yeah. And even though the record didn't make the list, spoiler alert, I would say the same thing about the lead single in the next album. I'm sorry, I'm just
The
drawing a
Trooper.
blank. What's that?
The Trooper.
No, to the next album.
Oh, the next album, Wasted Years.
Waste. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't believe I just blanked there.
Warhead and
I
Killer.
think I think that is definitely. It kind of has that hair metal, almost like almost thunderstruck kind of effect with that intro and stuff. But man, what a great tune!
So, what do you feel like is their biggest hair metal ish single ever? Because I think it's "Can I Play with Madness."
Boy, I hadn't thought about it, but that's probably the pick. As far as just saying like hair metal-y,
Yeah.
it's either that or Wasted Years.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that, and which is interesting because we just said that those albums were proggier and different, but they had
Well, you
single-
did.
Well, I did too.
No, actually, I'm kidding. I actually agreed with you. So
Anyway, back to this album, right? You want to go? To
yeah,
the next
yeah, we got Lost for Words, an instrumental, as they say.
Big Aura. Yeah. So interesting. The third song on this album is an instrumental. I like the song. I think it's a weird placement in the album, but I actually remember using this. I had a photography class in college, and we had to do a short video, and I used this as the background music in my short video, and I got a B. So I'm assuming the professor was not a fan of the music because I know it wasn't my videography. It had to be amazing.
I was on college radio and we had to record us reading a news story, and I was nervous, so I actually rehearsed and practiced the beginning of Detroit Rock City, where Gene is like, in Detroit, and I turned that in, and like the my professor, what teacher, whatever, the head of the whole thing, he was like, "Where did you get this news story?" and I was like, I was 19. I'm like, I don't know. It was in the AP. They're like, yeah, I just lied.
It was on the AB. It was on the GS.
I think where would you move this song to though?
I mean, I feel like it should be kind of near the end.
I don't have a problem with the sequence at all. No, I did read that they were thinking about putting lyrics on this, and they were, in the words of Bruce Dickinson, out of words. So
I like it as an instrumental. I feel like the place is weird.
All right, fair enough. We have Flash to the Blade next.
All right, so I absolutely love the opening riff. This is one of those where to me, this is kind of going back to the previous album, Peace of Mind, because it's kind of sword and sorcery. They did a lot of that on Peace of Mind.
Great point.
The guitar harmonies on this song, though, holy shit! Like, it's got this little classical bridge section where they're doing all these guitar harmony things. I mean, just the interplay between the two guitarists on this song is absolutely impressive. Overall, the lyrics and the song itself, it's just okay for me, but the musicality of it is amazing.
Through the flash of a blade, young man. Anyway, I love this tune. And you know what? I can basically just echo everything you say. Next up, we have another instrumental on this end side one, The Duelist.
Not an instrumental.
The Duelist?
It's not an instrumental.
Yes, it is.
No, it's got lyrics.
Oh, God, You're gonna get some nitpicky shit here with me.
It's got lyrics. It has a long trade off of leads at the end, and a lot of more guitar harmonies. But no, this is to me this is a callback almost to Number of the Beast. You got that Steve Harris gallop going.
Come on, Kevin. There's always the Steve Harris gallop going.
This one is like full on.
You know, when people want to pigeonhole Iron Maiden, it's the Steve Harris gallop.
It is. It is.
You're a bass player. How do you you pull off some Steve Harris gallops?
You know what? I play with a pick. So I started off on my fingers. I tried to do the Steve Harris thing, and I just found that once I moved to guitar, so I started off on bass, I moved to guitar, and then I moved back to bass, and I just found that I could
Guitar was too hard, right?
play better. It's like all these extra strings, man. What do you do with those?
So, wow, two more.
You're supposed to hit them at the same time? That doesn't make sense to me. It's
Why
one
are there
string at a
two
time.
E strings? I don't understand.
No, it's interesting because even when I play guitar kind of like a bass player. It was always about the rhythm and playing the lower
I've
note.
never ever heard that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I play guitar like a bass player. I've heard I play bass guitar like a guitar player.
Yep. So I eventually get back to bass, man.
Well, good for you.
Anyway, but no, I never could pull off the Steve Harris thing. You ever noticed Steve Harris is the only bass player recorded where you hear the clickety clack? Like you don't hear that from anybody else. When you listen to Maiden, you hear his gallop.
Yeah.
You hear clack, 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 clack. He is hitting the strings so hard that they are just bouncing off the frets. And no other bass player I've ever heard, maybe other than
Geezer?
No, you don't hear it though. You don't hear the clack, clack.
Who are you gonna say? I cut you off.
I was going to say Anthrax is probably the only other band.
Bellow.
Yeah, I think he does it a little bit, but that clack, no other bass player I've ever heard recorded has it that loud, that present.
You know, you're right, because like Geezer, like they play almost a similar busy style, but his is more warm.
Yeah, it's a lower
where
tone.
Steve is very percussive.
Yeah. So I remember asking. I had a guitar teacher when I was first learning bass, and I was like, "What is that?"
You had a guitar teacher for learning bass? I don't understand.
Yeah,
It's like Chinese.
He taught bass for some reason. For some reason, he thought he could also play
There's
bass.
people who teach how to play bass? I thought you just picked it up and started playing.
You suck.
Yeah.
But I remember asking him, and I'm just picking the instrument up. I'm like, "How's he doing that clack clack that thing?" And this guy was a jazz dude, and he was like, "Well, actually, that shouldn't be there. He's playing it inappropriately. Like,
Oh, fuck that
proper
guy.
way to play. That should not be there." I'm like, yeah, I won't be coming back to this guy.
Yeah.
So they're into my guitar lessons.
You're basically described in a much different way, but the exact reason I dropped guitar lessons was like, what the fuck am I paying you for? He's like, you're holding the pick wrong, your hands or your fingers wrong. I was like, well, yeah, whatever.
Well, this
No.
guy was trying to teach me music, and I'm like, dude, just teach me Balls to the Wall by Excel.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I want to play some Kiss. How do I play that? Well, first, we learn the proper technique to hold a guitar pick. Fuck off. All right. So let's get to side two. It opens up with Back in the Village.
My favorite song on this album.
Whoa.
Love this song. If you asked me to sum up what Maiden sounds like in one single song, I think this is the song, because every player in the band on this song does their trademark thing. Every single one of them, they play their trademark thing that makes them Iron Maiden in this song, and you can pick it out. And it's, to me, if talking about bass, if you want to learn how to play metal bass guitar, all you need is this song.
I love that riff, that like
Love it.
and again, put it in context. We're grading on a scale between this and Flash of the Blade. I think those two are the closest you come to filler on this record. For the record, I don't think there's any filler on the record, but I'm like, every record has its ebb and flow. I just don't think, I don't know, man.
Doesn't do
Something
it
about
for
the
you.
chorus, I mean, no, the music absolutely, but the back in the village, it seems like a side tangent on where the record was going,
Wow.
and then it brings you back on the next song.
I don't hear that at all. I just hear this is kick-ass Iron Maiden. And I actually always wondered, I mean, most people may, obviously the band thinks like you because
Yeah.
this is a deeper cut that you don't hear live. I would think this would be played at every live show, but I've never heard it. Speaking of live, how many times have you seen Maiden?
0.
Really?
Yeah, unbelievable. They are playing on my birthday this year. About 5 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. And my plan is to, like on that day, basically see how cheap the tickets get and just get a ticket and go. But I made the mistake of looking at the set list they're doing right now. And I'm like, God, I don't want
like Somewhere in Time stuff.
Yeah, they're basically doing that record quite a bit. And the problem was they were just here a few years ago with that tour just before COVID. The tour with that big plane and that whole thing, and that was the perfect set list.
Oh my God! It was most of these songs. It was.
Yeah, it was just like, so I blew it. Is what I'm getting at, Kevin. Yeah. You got to remember, like, I didn't have the luxury of like deciding I'm going to go to a concert until probably 1991, 92, and so the heyday of Maiden was kind of through there, but. We'll see. You know what? The price right hits good. I'm just gonna drive down there on that. I think it's a Tuesday. My birthday is this year.
Oh, you should so go. It's if you haven't seen Maiden, you got to, man. I've probably seen.
I kind of feel that way.
Times.
They're still, by the way. I mean, I've seen them a bunch on like video and stuff. I mean, they're still fucking amazing. So, no reason not to. It's not like going to see Wasp, who I'm seeing in November.
I'd recommend not going to that one, but you have fun.
Yeah. They'll have beer.
I went to the last one. I was underwhelmed.
We'll talk afterwards.
I'm probably one of the only people that can say they saw Maiden in a club. So in the 90s, when they had Blaze, they were touring clubs, and they played here in Atlanta in 1995 at the Masquerade, which is probably 2,000.
Okay.
Not even seater. It's a standing room.
Oh, does 2,000 count as a club? Because I could have seen him at a place called Ray Wilkins, which is about 2,000.
Yeah, that's a club for Maiden. I mean, you think of Maiden as either.
No, it was like it was like amazing that like not that long after they were basically selling out. This 2,000 or 3,000 seater is connected to Xcel Energy Center, which is where they played maybe 10, 15 years later, and 18,000 people are seeing them.
Yeah. First time I saw Maiden was Fear of the Dark tour, and I had 4th row tickets, and I was standing on Steve Harris's side, and I'm looking at Steve Harris, only 4 people away, and I'm wearing a Spinal Tap T-shirt for some reason, and he looks at me, makes eye contact, and points at me, and starts laughing because I'm wearing a Spinal Tap T-shirt. So that's my claim to fame with Steve Harris.
And you guys banged?
I was funny looking. I'm sorry?
Oh, I said, and then you guys banged.
Well, I didn't want to go into that, but sure.
Fair enough. All right. Well, the next track, number 7 on the we're on side 2 now. Powerslave, the title track, credited only to Bruce Dickinson. This is a fucking killer tune.
And thus began Kevin's journey into progressive rock. This is the one, man. This song is a long song. It's got movements, moods, sections. Phenomenal song. It's a highlight of Live After Death. So again, whenever I hear this song, whether it's the album version, it still reminds me of that excitement of watching that Live After Death.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that was going on during it. That was when all the things were moving, right?
Yeah. And if you ever like, I don't like prog rock, this is like a great gateway to just pull you in. It's so catchy, and it's like you don't even realize you're listening to prog. But so good.
This led me to Rush. This led me to Yes. It led me to King Crimson and all the stuff that most people go, oh God. But I love it. So
yeah. Ditto. All right. Yeah, this is a fucking great song. I mean, well, this whole record though, this is I keep repeating myself because we're starting to see some similarities in a lot of this stuff. You start the beginning and you end with the whole album. I don't really cherry pick stuff off this too much. I want to listen to Powerslave. I want to listen to Powerslave. So the whole record, but it ends with. Now, is this still their longest song ever? I know at the time it was.
No.
Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
What was the one that was on Book of Souls? It was the whole last song was the whole album side.
Hold on, let me
Yeah,
see.
that thing. Flight of the I can't remember that. It's long as hell.
I'm really stuck in a tight spot here. All right, so let's see here.
Well, last song or the
Well,
super.
the last Empire of the Clouds.
That's the one.
Okay,
That
for
thing.
people at home. I'm just there we go. All right.
All right. So my thoughts here on Rhyme. I absolutely love the music, but I was never a huge fan of Steve Harris basically retelling history or retelling classic literature. I mean, this is him basically stealing from Samuel Taylor Coleridge.
Sure.
Like, why?
Stealing.
He's reciting the whole damn thing. Like, just come up with your own lyrics, man.
Come up with your own lyrics.
I just did. It's a theme that he would continue to do, like on several albums after this, where you would have this very long, either historical or literature-based song at the end of the album. And while I love it, at the same time, I'm like, I just don't need the lesson. Like, come up with some other lyrics.
It was my gateway into this poem, so I love it for that. I love the fact that like it's a 13-minute song that I never get bored of listening to while I'm listening to it. It is, I don't know, it's perfect, man. To your point,
Love it. Love the music.
in I think ninth grade English, we had to keep a journal that we would turn in every week, and for one of the weeks, I just wrote the lyrics to the song down. And I got a kind of a weird comment. I don't remember what it was, surprisingly, but yeah, to me, this is where Prog Maiden came in. This is like
Absolutely. They had done
they're doing something different now. And they would carry it forward. It wasn't so much Powerslave. They've had songs in the 6 to 7 minute range at this point, but this is 13 minutes. And length isn't the only telltale of prog, but they definitely got to that point with this song for me.
Yep. And it's, again, this was kind of my gateway into prog music, which I absolutely love today. So, I mean, I went on a prog rock cruise, for God's sake.
Now, there's two forms of music there's not a version of it that I find redeeming. In other words, there's two forms of music I don't like. Are there any you actually don't like?
I am not a country fan whatsoever.
Okay. Even like old school, kind of like.
I can tolerate it, but I don't own any of it.
Yeah.
And for me to say that, so.
I'm not a big country fan, but there's enough of it that I like that I would not say there's nothing about it that I don't like. Because there's too much country that kind of rocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I draw the line at Southern rock. I do love Southern rock. So I guess.
Different animal there. I'll concede the separation there. For me, reggae and marching band.
Okay, I love reggae. I don't know how you don't like reggae, man.
Oh God! Well, I do like that one song, the one that goes.
I know that one.
Oh wait, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the one I hate. Oh God, reggae is just.
What about
reggae?
ska? Where are you with ska? Because it's in between kind of reggae and.
Sure, there's examples of ska that I enjoy. How about that?
Okay. All right.
I would say it's much like my attitudes towards country. Like Goldfinger has a couple tunes that I love a lot, and that's definitely ska. And they hit the 1 and the 3 on a lot of their stuff too. So, all right. Well, we've wrapped up the record, Kevin. Let me hit you with a couple things here. What's your favorite song on Powerslave? I believe you may have already said it, but make it clear.
It's definitely Back in the Village.
God, that's such a weird pick.
Well, I'm a weird dude.
100% agree. You know, the weird thing is, like, I hate taking the obvious choice. Mine has to be 2 minutes to midnight. The Powerslave would probably be the second one. So somewhere between those two. All right.
Ace is High in my number 2 spot, and then
Okay. Good enough. No, Ace is High. I can at least concede is like, while my opinion is what it is, it's not a popular one. A lot of people love that tune, and I'm okay with that. What about overall? What's your overall favorite Maiden song? And you don't have to like marry yourself to this, but I'm hitting you on the spot here.
Overall, that is really tough. I don't even know if I can answer that question.
Throw a couple out. I don't care.
It's kind of odd. I love the Seventh Son album. I know here's the proggy weird guy, but I love Seventh Son. The song I love, pretty much that whole album is
Okay.
almost a perfect Maiden album to me. I also love Caught Somewhere in Time. Again, first cassette tape that I owned was Somewhere in Time, and I think Caught Somewhere in Time is an amazing song.
Well, I definitely like Wasted Years as far as just a jam that never gets old for me. But I'm gonna dig a little deeper. For me, it's like 22 Acacia Avenue or The Prisoner, something like that. Those are probably my
You are a free man.
yeah. God, yeah. I just God, the Number of the Beast after that opening track is like that's my Maiden, man.
Yeah, I love it too.
And Fear of the Dark, by the way, I didn't really appreciate that song at the time, and then I saw a live version a couple years later, and I'm like, okay, this is a great fucking tune.
Yeah, when you hear the crowd singing it with him, it's like, there's power in that song.
Well, Kevin, it's time. It's time to get to the rankings. Are you ready for this?
I am ready for this.
So, coming in at number 7 is, of course, Iron Maiden Powerslave. We've been talking about it for a while here now. It had an average rank of 19. You're going to love this one. 19.71429. It had a high rank of number 1. One of like I think I think it was about 16 or 17 records actually got a number 1 ranking. A low rank of 34. I had it at 33. You had it at number 10.
I did, and I had a different Maiden album at number 1.
Well, go ahead and tell everybody. Yeah,
I had Peace of Mind at number 1 on my list.
Man, that's God. Out of the first 5, that comes in 4 for me.
Really?
Yeah, I just above Killers.
Interesting. I put it there because, again, when I was thinking about the criteria, I had to have a Maiden album at number 1. It was,
Yeah.
I had to pick one of the Maiden albums.
You're the man.
Had to be there. And the reason I picked Peace of Mind is because of the longevity, the long-lastingness of the Trooper alone. That when most people think Maiden, they think the Trooper. And I think that it just has staying power over the years, and that's usually the gateway song for most people into Maiden.
I don't disagree with that. And by the way, if I can only pick 5 Maiden records, it's the first 5. So there's not a bad record among them, and so I'm not like dumping on any of them. But something's got to come in number 4. So yeah, for me, it's probably if I just a quick ranking: Number of the Beast, Powerslave, the debut, Peace of Mind, and then Killers.
Wow, you hate Killers that much, huh?
Yeah, there you go, fucking troll. Yeah. No, it's a great record, but I hate Paul Diano. I hate him.
He wore these armbands and looked like an idiot.
God, you are just you come prepared, but and I'm embarrassed to say this, but for the longest time, I was watching this on a smaller box because I had the stuff. Once I knew I was done kind of popping shit up, I blew the screen up, and I just now realized that you've been big aura the whole time.
Thank you for finally noticing.
So the viewers will see it a lot cleaner than I did the whole time. Look, I have all this production crap I'm trying to deal with. So also I'm blind as fuck and I'm not wearing my glasses, so I'm doing my best. Well, Kevin, tell everybody where they can check out In Obscuria. Pimp yourself.
Yeah, so In Obscuria, you can get it anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on everything. If you want to hear songs, bands, genres that we say it's the lost, the forgotten, or the should have beens. So it's all about bands that maybe you used to know one song by, but maybe they have 20 albums. You're not realizing that they were around for 30 years or something like that. We like to feature bands like that. We like to talk about groups that I just love. I'm a huge music lover in general. If it has hard guitar in it, I'm probably going to like it. So it's rock, it's punk, it's metal, anything in between, it's prog, everything. We even talk about only Japanese bands. and even only Japanese bands that have women in them. We get into everything.
Any Japanese bands we left off the list? Easy O.
Easy O was not on the list. Yeah, they could have been there. Loudness was there, so that's great.
No. Yeah, goddamn it, they're in the intro of the show. So
I know, it's great.
Well, Kevin, well, first of all, one of the best podcasts out there. We don't do as good a job as you as promoting other shows, so I should take a second to say, yeah, absolutely, check out this show. If you've enjoyed the Hard 180, and you're not just myopic in like I only like hair metal, fucking A, check out the show he does with Robert. You guys are amazing. You do a really good show, and of course, nobody has the music knowledge you have. I take as great pride anytime I can stump you.
Well, we'll see how you do at the next Rockin' Pod, man.
Yeah, if I make it, that's still up in the air. Although I have to say, this many years in, if a year from now I have not been a guest on your show to talk Husker Du, I'm going to take it as a personal offense. You got 12 months.
You know what? We just played a band that Greg Norton is in now.
Oh, yeah. What do they call Ultra Bomb?
Ultra Bomb. Yeah, amazing. And it made me think, holy shit, we haven't done our Husker Du with Baco yet. So it's coming, people. It's coming.
Okay. You have 12 months. I've given you a year. Yeah, all the best, man. It's always good catching up with you. I really do appreciate the friendship we've had over the years. And, of course, you were the perfect pick for Powerslave. So thanks for coming on and doing this.
Yeah, and let me just say thank you, because you and LC are part of the reason that we even exist, man, because it's listening to shows like yours that made me interested in trying to do this myself. And so just thank you. And I'm, like I said, I'm a religious listener, man. I've listened to every show you've ever put out. So you do such an awesome job, you and LC both, and just really appreciate the friendship over the years.
Thanks a lot, man. And for everybody that's checking this show out, next episode, we're at number 6. You can go ahead and chime in on any of the places you can comment on what you think number 6 is going to be. Chime in on what the next 6 records are going to be. I don't care. Until then, here is your moment of Lee.